we talk about another segue. We talk about these angry, just ridiculous dudes.
Yeah.
So there is another issue going on in this country, and it's been going on for some time, and it seems like it has reared its ugly head since Donald Trump really came into power and came into whatever this new movement is, in the country. And that is, we are having an issue with men in this country. And I've said this before, we talked about this, and I want to talk about it last week, but we'll talk about it this week. The issue that I'm seeing with men in this country is not the issue that I think that a lot of the people that I'm talking about see with men in this country. They look at it that men are becoming too soft, and there's words used like alpha and beta and cuck and all these words that people like that who use those words. You talked about earlier about compensating. That I get that sense is that when people use these words to try to pump themselves up, it is a lot of compensation. And we're seeing a lot of that in the country right now as to whether or not they're either trying to pump up their own self-esteem, or they're just misguided in so many different ways by so many different outlets and so many different people now, that it is causing some of the consternation that we see around this country. And I'm sure you see the same thing.
Right. No, absolutely. You got Josh Hawley. Was it Josh Hawley writing a book about masculinity, but
Right.
just running from, the J6 insurrectionists?
Yep.
You got Tuberville pissed at the military because they're too woke, because the guys in the Navy had the nerve to be on the intercom saying poems. Like, what are you talking about? Like, are you serious right now? Like, even if that happened, like, so, like, what is the poem? Like, so is he?
Does that make you soft? I don't understand.
That's what he's insinuating, right? Like, he's insinuating woke is soft, the arts is soft because you can't read a poem. And it's like, so Republicans are fighting against art now, and art means liberal. Like, they're so stupid. Like, it's so it's the ones who do this are the ones that are the weakest, most cowardly people there are. Tuberville ain't been in no military. Like, shut the fuck up. If you
he was a football coach, so I think he thinks that he's
he thinks he's tough and a man. Like, stop playing.
I'll tell you what, I don't know about the arts and poems and all that stuff being unmanly, because I'm a huge Billy Joel fan, and that guy got Christy Brinkley to marry him. So
look at Prince. Prince wore heels and lace, like, and he had all the women. Stop. What are you?
Prince had some of the hottest women I've ever seen, and Prince was 5'1" and wore basically women's clothes. But he was a badass.
Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
What do you? They don't. But see, that's just a part of the plan. Like, this isn't like, again, this stuff isn't in a vacuum.
Yeah.
It's who they need on their side. So it's almost like, you're talking to those men.
Yep.
You're trying to give you want the weak ones because you want to act like you're trying to empower them. And
those are the ones who think they're tough, and they make them think they're tough, but they're really not, because they're weak to buy into it.
Yeah. Exactly. Go and get your gun, your AR-15. You're tough. You're Second Amendment right. They can't tell you what to do. They can't tell you to wear a mask like you're a man.
That is exactly, yeah. You're a sheep. You buy into the system if you do. I'll tell you how sad and pathetic it is. And I don't know if you've seen this, but I can go out to a bar with friends and stuff. If somebody literally was drinking a Bud Light, they're considered gay, or they're considered feminine because they're drinking Bud Light now.
Stupid.
I mean, this is how sad and pathetic sort of the whole thing has gotten. But I mean, so many men with this like Bud Light thing. It hit them hard, and they're like, I'm never drinking Bud Light again because I don't want to look gay, or I don't want to look like that I support anything that Bud Light. Again, we talk about some of the stupidest fucking culture wars. I don't remember growing up seeing these culture wars the way I see them now. You're not drinking a beer anymore because one person advertised it on their, I don't know, Instagram or whatever it was. It was probably something I would have never known or never heard of had Chris or Kid Rock not lost his mind, started shooting up Bud Light cans. Just all these little things that are going on. The cultural war of not wearing masks. I mean, what is... I don't understand what's happening.
They get violent, and that's the crazy part too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just culture war and I'm on strike, I'm not going to shop at Target. No, it's, oh, you have a flag in your window, I'm just going to kill the woman store owner because she put a flag. Like, it's dangerous. Like, it's not even just cultural. Like, we've got to give it to them. They have successfully created like the others and made others like dangerous, like the trans. They're all pedophiles. They're this. And literally, when we look at the news, we see who the pedophiles are. They're like the cops in these red states, or the ministers and preachers in these red states. Like, they're not the trans. Like, it's just... I did a whole podcast on the whole trans movement. That is one I would actually encourage you to go back and listen to. Because I felt like I did a good job on that one. So, but this idea that they associate anything that is not like them is either a predator or they're after you. They're, I've heard that a million times, like, they'll qualify it with saying, I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you just don't bring that shit to me. And like, first of all, nobody's bringing anything to you. Fucking relax, take it easy. And what happens if they did? What, are you turning gay? Are you turning trans? Are you, what happens if that actually happened? I've had gay guys hit on me before. I didn't turn gay over it. You just go like, that's a compliment. Somebody thinks that's a compliment.
Yeah, that's all it is. I mean, I don't understand the anger. I saw a very good article in the New York Times. This guy, David French, wrote an article called The Lost Boys of the American Right. Now, it does appear as most of the gentlemen that we are talking about are right-leaning. And I'm obviously not going to read the whole article, but there's a couple of passages in here that I did want to read that I thought were really good. It says, as I survey the right, especially the young, so-called new right, I see a movement in the grip of some rather simple but powerful cultural forces we just talked about. Hatred combined with masculine insecurity and cowardice is hurting young right men into outright bigotry and prejudice. Contrary to their self-conception, they're not strong or tough or courageous. They're timid sheep in wolves' clothing, moving exactly where the loudest and most aggressive voices tell them to go. And that's, for the most part, like we said, we just talked about. And you wonder, how do you get through to somebody where they feel like this message is so powerful to them that it is speaking to them, that they are just completely off and completely wrong? Can you get it through to anybody like that?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I was reading Lucy's comment and I'm like, why wouldn't it be a compliment? Why do you think that all gay people, just because they're hitting on you, want sex? And that's the problem with the Republican Party, and apparently Lucy too, whoever Lucy is that's here trolling. Like, why? It's not about sex all the time. Like, why does sex, when you think gay, why does sex immediately come to you? When you think heterosexual, we're not thinking sex automatically.
That is correct.
It's so ridiculous. It's like, oh, your mind goes to like, oh, he's trying to sodomize you. What the fuck are you talking about?
I brought this up in my podcast, actually, and it was one of the things that I said is like, Do you realize that not all trans, not all straight people or gay people, some of them don't have any sex at all, you know? So to
Seriously.
associate it just because you're gay or you're trans doesn't mean sex. But again, if people get easily freaked out when somebody is not like you, and it's
Right.
not just with people of different sexual orientations. We obviously see it with race. We see it with religion. We
Right.
see it with ethnicities and xenophobia and all this. If you are not like, and again, most of these people in some of the things that we're talking about are white males. But when it comes to the angry part, I'm seeing that in all walks of life. I'm seeing it, for younger men, where if you're not being made to feel like a man, or if
Right.
you're being challenged in any way, or if you are bold enough in front of your friends to say, I don't give a shit if that guy's gay. I don't give a shit if somebody put a, if you're bold enough to say that, to me, I don't know, that makes you more of a man than somebody that reacts so
Absolutely.
outrageously about it.
Um,
Did you have something to say?
oh no, I'm gonna
Okay.
not.
Read one more paragraph from this
Yeah, go ahead.
article. To understand the cultural dynamic, I want to introduce you to an obscure online concept: no enemies to the right. A tiny fringe adopts this mindset as a conscious ethos, but for a much larger group, it is simply their cultural reality. In their minds, the left is so evil and represents such an existential threat that any accommodation of it or criticism of the right undermines the forces of light in their great battle against the forces of darkness. Again, a lot of that too is light versus darkness. We're soldiers, we're warriors in this battle. Attack the left in the most searing terms, and you'll enjoy the thunderous applause of your peers. Criticize the new right, and you can experience a vicious backlash. The result is a relentless pull to the extremes. So, again, I growing up, I really don't remember. There's always been, an ego thing with men. I mean, all men have some sort of ego. I do too. It's in some respects,
Right.
but it's to the point now where it's just so over the top that I think a lot of these guys aren't really who they think they are, because they're sort of being told this is how you need to be a man.
Exactly. Nah, you can't cry, you can't show
Yeah.
emotion, can't be kind, you can't be polite. Like it's just so dumb. Just all of
Yeah,
it.
it really is. And I was watching the clip. Do you know there's this one of these podcasters, Tim Pool, I think his name is. And he had these guys on, Fresh and Fit. Do you know who they are? No. They are having this whole conversation about women, and
Mm.
basically what it is, they're very pissed that when you have women that, maybe if you took a group of guys and you were saying, how would you assess this woman's looks, they would be on the top of the charts. And they were just really upset that these girls are not paying attention to them, is how I got it.
Oh.
And, couple schools of thoughts. One, everybody's not going to like you, so it's sometimes, if you're charming enough, even a goofy looking guy like me, maybe every once in a while can get a girl that,
Yeah. Yeah.
is attractive, but for them, they are so mad that, if they're not paying attention to them, there's something wrong with these women. There's something, and that's another thing that
That's
a lot of men.
interesting because do women these days even pay attention to men like that? Like it's different how we look at men anyway, like how men look at us and what men think sexy, like the touch, or I don't know, bathing suit, bikini. It's attractive,
I
whatever.
think part of
Women
it
are like,
is
who cares about that? What's your credit score? Do you have a
right.
house?
Right.
like, like
Well, Here's the problem.
You have a
It
car?
comes from a younger generation to where
Mhm.
all they see is the women on the private jets with these guys who are smoking the cigars and have the fancy cars and all this stuff. And again, kind of like what you were saying, that's just not reality anyway. It's not reality. And to them,
Yeah, I guess
that's a
if you're
threat to them.
20, yeah, maybe if you're 20, that's I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's different age.
Yeah. Well, I will admit I have grown up in a different time than the younger generation, and this what's happening now probably is just unhealthy, regardless of whether you are a toxic male or if you are just a regular person.
Yeah,
It is probably not as easy to grow up as it was when I was growing up,
I'll
but
agree. Yeah.
um,
It's
but
probably it's probably hard to meet people too now. It's not the same. You go
yeah.
in the bar now, it's not the same. People don't even really talk. They don't even dance with you anymore. Like you gotta go in there with pre-pickup lines just to like get someone's phone number nowadays because it's a
That's
different era.
exactly what it is. And there was a time where, where like the online dating scene was something that you looked at as like, you're really going online.
Yeah.
Now it's just that's how most people
Meet each other,
find
right?
dates.
Yeah.
And it appears now that a lot of people are finding dates on these, things, and they're 2-3 day dates, and then they move on to the next one. And like I
Yeah.
said, it's a
Well, I
definitely
mean,
different
but
dating
I
scene.
guess you know what? You're not kind of like beholden to that person. If you're going on dates online, you're like, you know what? I didn't really have a connection. You just go on to the next and have another date. Like it's
Yeah.
different because they're there. It's more
Yeah.